motherfuckers right here. Yes, these motherfuckers right here. Fuck 'em. We don't want to talk about them. It's getting boring as fuck. These motherfuckers right here. Yes, these motherfuckers right here. Fuck 'em. We don't want to talk about them. It's getting boring as fuck. These motherfuckers right here. Yes, these motherfuckers right here. Fuck 'em. We don't want to talk about them. It's getting boring as fuck.
Those donkey balls are bouncing all around. Bounce up, bounce up. Those donkey balls. Those donkey balls are bouncing all around. Those donkey balls are bouncing all Those donkey balls are bouncing all around. Those donkey balls are bouncing, making all praise.
Sniffing, you can smell them. Those donkey balls are yelling, and they're swinging to the beat of the loser's song. Never turn your back, 'cause those donkey balls are bouncing on your dreams. Suck 'em. Those donkey balls are bouncing on your chin again. What a silly, got to grin again and again. Never turn your back, 'cause those donkey balls are bouncing on your dreams. Suck 'em. Those donkey balls are bouncing on your chin again. What a sin, we gotta grin again and again.
fluffy old kitty. Meow, meow. Meow, meow.
He would be so scared to see me.
Everybody thinks we was doing this shit, doxing motherfuckers. Nah, they came at us first.
I got a fire raging in my front yard. Oh, why did you set your front yard on fire? Are you drinking again?
Smacking off the podcast. Fuck your city, our boss. Because false authorities. Smacking off the podcast. Fuck your team, dog balls. You call them false authorities.
Smacking off the podcast.
All right, guys.
What's going on?
Back. What's
Hey,
going
can
on?
you all hear me?
Yes.
Alrighty.
Hell yeah. That's exciting.
Hey, we knew you. We knew you were here before we started, Ed.
Yeah, Nomo Cabo.
What's that?
Translation.
Oh, sorry. Were you were on vacation? Where were you at?
I was in Cabo during the show last week, but I had to sign off because I had some internet problems.
Were you hanging with? Did you hang with Sammy Hagar when you were down there?
No, that's Cabo San Lucas. We were in San Jose del Cabo, which is about a half an hour away because they have an art walk on Thursdays, and we hadn't been to that yet. But we did not.
You know,
sounds like. I'm sorry.
I'm a big Van Halen fan, and I definitely think that David Lee Roth was superior as the Van Halen lead singer. But I think if I was going to hang out with one of them, it would be Sammy.
Yeah, so we are going to go back to Cabo again, probably in 2 to 3 years, and we're going to stay closer to Cabo San Lucas at the highest end Riu resort, and we'll go downtown and we'll go to Sammy's place because we had that. That's on our list.
Sean.
What's up, guys?
Hey, man, I got one question for you.
Mm.
Van Halen, Dave or Sammy?
Oh, Dave.
Hell yes.
Definitely David Lee Roth. Sure.
Sammy's definitely a better singer than Dave, though. But that's not really important. Dave's the life of the party, and it comes out when he's singing with Van Halen.
Yes.
That don't really happen when Sammy sings.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Anyway. Everybody, Jason, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up, guys?
Okay, cool. So everybody can be heard. We could hear. We could hear. We could hear. We could hear Ed before the show started.
Yeah, I heard that too, even through my Spotify music.
Good.
Ed, you were typing something. Are you working on your next story?
That's it.
It was your next story. What's your next story? Give us a sneak peek.
Oh, I mean, it's probably Michigan something.
Oh, you ain't telling us, are you?
Well, because I don't know.
Well, you were typing, so we can go back. That's Morse code. We can go back and we'll decipher it.
The correct answer, Ed, is no. I'm not going to give it away right now. That's the correct
No, I'm not going to give it away right now.
Yeah, you were just trying to be nice about it, weren't you, Ed?
Actually, the truth is, I have numerous topics in the WordPress system, but I'm on a self-imposed hiatus until August when the college football season returns.
Well, when I was about to say we could hear you before the show,
yeah,
I was trying to remember your name because my cat was actually attacking my my cord, which was going to unhook everything and remove me from the show.
Well, that kind of sounds like Calvin. He likes to.
There was something about the whole situation that Ed, I could not remember your name. I almost forgot what I was talking about because the cat looked pretty. He looked pretty gung ho about what he was doing.
Usually they are.
Oh yeah, my cats are all. They're dead serious. You ever watch a cat just push a fucking vase off of a shelf or something and just watch it fall?
It happened when I was on vacation.
That's why our cat's not allowed down upstairs or downstairs, I should say.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
I've got like a 1980 SG, and I had it sitting propped up against a chair beside me while I was sitting practicing and playing and stuff. And the cat came over and looked at me and looked at it, stretched out its arm, and it looked back at me, and I knew it was going to tip the stinking SG over, and it did. It flopped, but I knew it was going to happen, so I grabbed it. But if I had not been there, he might have snapped the neck on my priceless Gibson. So, you know, watch him stinking kitties.
By the way, gentlemen, how do you like the setup?
Dig. Oh yeah, it's colorful.
oh yeah.
Got the LED lights going. I mean, it's almost like I'm a Twitch streamer about to play a video game. I mean, I put a lot into this weekend.
It looks a lot better than a 200-year smoke-stained wall of homemade brick.
The chimney. Call it the chimney. That's what you call it.
Is that the chimney, Bob? Bob, are you sitting in front of the chimney?
No, this is the back of a detached kitchen. A lot of plantation houses had breezeways and detached kitchens, so they burn the kitchen down instead of the house, and that's what this is. And there's been a greenhouse built on the other side of it, and that's what I'm sitting in.
All right. So what's going on in sports, guys? Sean?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, women's college World Series for softball, men's college baseball just got done with the regional round. We're headed to super regionals. We got the U.S. Open upcoming in golf. We got a lot of things.
Yeah, that's and that is at one of, I believe, one of not the most difficult course, because I have another one in mind for that one, but it's up there.
Pray tell, which is the other one?
That would be Wingfoot.
I put Wingfoot up there as well, and I would add a third. I would add Shinnecock to that
Yeah, well, didn't
triad.
Corey Pavin was either -2 or even when he won that, right?
I believe so. And then only Kepka, I think, when he won at Shinnecock, and I think that was 18 or 19. When I have to go back, but I think he was one of the few under par to win. I mean, it's those three are kind of the gold standard for absolutely.
Well, I think also Pinehurst #2, because the greens are so small and they run away from the hole, and if your iron play is off just a tad, you're in all kinds of trouble.
I do think Pinehurst is certainly a great challenging test for the U.S. Open, but I don't quite put it in that triad of Wingfoot, Shinnecock, and Oakmont. I think those three are the gold standard, and then I'd put Pinehurst right below it, the silver medal, along with.
I'll go with that. I think it's almost impossible to shoot under par for 4 rounds. Well, I mean, cumulatively, not just one day, but to be under par at Wingfoot is almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean the only one recently, and that was the COVID year. Bryson was under, but it was in September. They didn't have as much prep time due to COVID, so I don't really quite consider that a true winged foot. It was a hastily put together winged foot. No fans were there either, so as we know, U.S. Open fans can be boisterous at times, particularly on the East Coast. So yeah, those three are the best. I'm excited. Oakmont's hosting it for. I think it's got the most hostings of any U.S. Open venue now, with it hosting this year. The rough is 6-7 inches in some places, and the greens are going to be running between 14 and 15 on the stimp. So yeah, it's going to be brutal, and that's what we love for U.S. Open.
And with the rough like that, if you didn't have all those people, you couldn't find your ball yourself.
Yeah, you're going to need the gallery to help find some of these with how thick the grass is. And yeah, yesterday was the longest day in golf, which is the final qualifying for the U.S. Open. So you have 10 venues around the United States hosting, 70 plus golfers at each venue, and each spot might have 1 to 4 slots available for those 70, 75 golfers.
Does Max Homa have a chance to get in as an alternate?
He's, I think, the number 3 or number 4 alternate, so it's not looking great for Homa, unfortunately.
Now I met Chichi Rodriguez at a senior event in Lexington in the '90s, and he was talking to somebody else when I was getting my chance to meet the guy, and he mentioned I think he called Wingfoot a goat path.
I think that's probably because he didn't have the greatest results there more than anything. It's absolutely a beautiful, obviously private facility. It's one of the original venues of the United States Golf Association, and both courses there are stern tests of golf.
Is that in Mamaroneck, New York? Is that right?
That is correct. You are correct, Ed. Mamaroneck, yep.
Wherever that is.
And then I believe it's just north of New York City.
Okay.
And then you have Shinnecock and then Bethpage are both on Long Island, which Bethpage will host the Ryder Cup this year in September. So
and Bethpage is probably just a notch below Pinehurst in terms of difficulty.
I would agree. And it's probably maybe it's not as difficult, but it is the biggest. I mean, it is a massive, because they're going to play the black course there, because it's got red, white, green, and then the black course has got the infamous warning sign. Warning: black course is meant only for the best golfers. Do not play this course unless you are suitably skilled to handle it. And so yeah, it's it's a good time for golf right now. Scotty Scheffler won again. No surprise there. And then we had a great U.S. Women's Open at Erin Hills in Wisconsin that Maya Stark won. So golf is heating up. And then I think next weekend we have sort of a match race in the Belmont with the Kentucky Derby winner facing off with the Preakness winner. The Derby winner obviously decided not to run the Preakness. They had the longer rest, but that should be exciting. So we're grinding through kind of the off. We're waiting on the NBA finals to start, the NHL finals to start. So, and then of course we're under 100 days for both the NFL and college football. So,
Oh, that's nice. I am not convinced that the Thunder is just going to blow by the Pacers.
Pacers very interesting. As a long-term Pacers fan, I found them very interesting. I didn't really expect this, even though I felt they've been respectable the last few years. And whereas the Thunder has a lot of very recognizable names, and what some people may consider to be elite talent, I certainly consider defensively Gilgeous Alexander to be an elite talent. But I don't know. Other than Halliburton, the Pacers aren't necessarily household names. But they played well. But I'd have to pick the Thunder at 6. They're loaded.
But the Pacers have a lot. They may not be all household names. They got a lot of guys that can play.
Yeah,
they're very long. They're very long as well.
The hilarious thing about all this is, I mean, obviously Oklahoma City and Indianapolis, Indiana are not as sexy as New York or Chicago or Los Angeles or Dallas or name your big city here. And I find it funny, and I've made this joke too, that maybe there's a few TV executives that may have jump out of a 30-story building and seeing this matchup for the finals, and how it's like, oh, this is the most terrible thing this is terrible for the NBA. Well, here's the thing. But the funny thing is that most of the people that are saying that, I can ask them this question and say, so how much of the NBA have you watched this season? And then they'll go, yeah, that's what I thought. Shut the fuck up. But anyway.
That's a great point. That's absolutely a great point.
I think we're going to see some very good basketball.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Credit to Sam Presti at Oklahoma, the general manager for Oklahoma City. That guy basically pulled what, and I'm going to kind of I am going to compare apples and oranges here. What the Chicago Cubs did for their World Series ring, they built that from their farm system from the ground up. You look at the Houston Astros, granted cheating allegations aside, they still built that from the ground up and got their championship. The Kansas City Royals did it at one point. They built it from the ground up. And that's kind of what the Oklahoma City, because the Oklahoma City Thunder were basically a format for, I can't remember when, the last couple of years. And it just seems now that everything is starting to come together for them. And for Indiana's been good this year. They've kind of caught me by surprise, because I think, like me, and probably like most of you, you were probably thinking this was most likely going to be the Boston Celtics taking the Eastern Conference Championship, which did not happen. So credit to Indiana. Is Oklahoma City, Indiana not as sexy as what would be like the Lakers versus the Celtics, or maybe the Mavs against the Heat? No, it's not. But the thing about it is, it isn't that like Adam Silver had to say, yes, I want give me more Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers. Because I say that because, all the allegations about the NBA being rigged, even though sometimes they don't help themselves. But anyways.
But sexy
it's one of the things.
In
it's too good
context of the Lakers Celtics simply means that more people that don't generally watch basketball would watch that.
Yeah, they would, because it's a well-known name. The Boston Celtics are a well-known name and well-known franchise with a lot of history. Same with the LA Lakers, going all the way back to Indianapolis. The Chicago Bulls with their 90s run with Michael Jordan in that short time that they had with Derrick Rose. Sorry, Sean, to bring that up. But anyway.
You meant it's okay. You meant Minneapolis for the Lakers, not Indiana.
Yeah. Well, I thought I said Minneapolis. I probably, with my southern accent, probably
They
jumbled
played
it.
with Minneapolis Lakers at one time, though.
The old George Mikan days. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Right.
I think you'd get more casual fans because those two are polarizing. I would say I would add the Knicks into that as well, having New York. But for people who purely love basketball, I think this is going to be a really fun series. And for those of us who kind of root for the little guy, it's nice to see two teams that you normally don't see in the NBA Finals in it. And I would say this: the Pacers have been around a long time. They were originally an ABA franchise that made the transition over to the NBA. They have a very dedicated, loyal fan base, and that Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indy is going to be rocking, like crazy. Little less. I mean, not to say that OKC doesn't have a good home court advantage, but there's a lot of people that, if remember the NBA for a long time, that have heartburn with Oklahoma City for the way that they moved that franchise that used to be the Seattle Supersonics. So I being one of those people, I wasn't a big fan of that. So obviously, I'll be rooting for the Pacers. But as Bob made mention,
I respect it. I respect the petty.
But that's definitely petty. But I'm I don't have any money on it, and I'm not employed by a network to say be neutral, so I can be petty. But I do think, to Bob's point, man, Oklahoma City's they've got some dudes. They got the MVP. Chet Holmgren's coming along real nicely there as well, and I think it's going to be a challenge for Indiana. I do think the West was a little bit of a better conference overall this season than the East, particularly once Cleveland started dealing with injuries, because Cleveland really was at the midway point was the prohibitive favorite in the Eastern Conference, even more so than the defending champion Celtics. But once Cleveland started getting those injuries, we saw what happened when the Pacers played them. I think they took care of them in 5.
And well, the interesting thing about this series, well, really, you just kind of look at the history of the franchises. You look at the Pacers back in the '90s, where they had that series with the Knicks. Reggie Miller does the.
He let Spike know. He let Spike Lee know. Choke.
Yeah, he let Spike Lee know, and then we're around the 2000s when they got to the finals, but they ran into the buzzsaw that was Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Rick Fox, you name it.
Yep.
And they were so close, but yet so far away from their championship. Then you go to the other side with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka. Those are the three that come right off the top of my head.
Right?
And James Harden, you're correct. And they ran into the buzzsaw. That was the big three in LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and might I also add one of my favorite 3-point shooters, Ray Allen.
Ray Allen, yeah.
And then
So
look
these
at
are
Jeremy.
two
What's
teams
that?
Well, they also had a Golden State problem.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but the Pacers have never won an NBA championship, and OKC hasn't. They did when they were Seattle in '79. Bob
I
can
was
fact
there.
were you? Was it '79? Was I right on that one, Ed?
Yep.
Yep. So both fan bases really want this one, and I think it's going to produce a heck of a finals. And the other thing that I don't know if the two leagues talked or not, but brilliant. You got the Stanley Cup Finals one night. The next night will be the NBA Finals, and then the next they're trading off nights, so we don't have to choose as viewers.
That's clearly coordinated. There's no
Yeah,
question.
I mean that is actually brilliant.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sean. And I'd like to welcome Jeremy to the show, Jeremy Smith of Southern Sports Focus. And I want to get to one more thing with the NBA Finals. So, as a person, if you love basketball, you want to watch this, and because of the fact that there aren't protected stars, a lot of times when you watch NBA playoff games, especially finals games, stars that are protected by the refs will get certain calls that'll keep their team in the series and so forth. And I believe in this game, there's not going to be individual stars that get by kicking people in the face and getting a foul like Kobe Bryant. And by the way, to me, that was to me, that was the most pitiful move in the history of basketball. That you take a jump shot and you intentionally kick somebody in the face, and then you get the foul. You know, the guy just kicked me in the face, right? So I don't believe there's going to be protected players from the refs in this game.
Well, how much money does or who did Tim Donaghy bet on? That's the question. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. I forgot. I watched the Untold Story on him the other night, and I kind of got my years mixed up.
That's not to say that there aren't still superstars in the NBA, but I think the NBA realizes a pivot towards a more team-esque style of game might be more beneficial to them than, we're just going to give this superstar the call, the benefit of the doubt. I mean, you want to see it fair for both sides. I agree with that, Bob.
And guys, I also have a confession. I need to come clean with this, guys. I really do. So, even in my time when I was working in radio in Atlanta, I embraced the NBA. Like NBA free agency was like what recruiting was in the South for me because it was bonkers and it was crazy. And also for the fact that I was covering an NBA team at that time. It was the Atlanta Hawks, but still an NBA team. But I have to admit that maybe within the last 5 to 6 years, and I was talking with a coworker of mine about this, of where, and Dr. Balls even knows about how I am a advocate for free throw shooting and also the mid-range jumper. But you're not seeing as much of that in the NBA no more. And my coworker even said that, or posed the question, did Steph Curry or Steph Curry, not his brother, Steph, did he, with his style of play, has he kind of ruined a little bit of the strategy of basketball? Because now that you're pulling up from the logo, everybody else is wanting to do it, which I understand. We grew up in the Be Like Mike era. Everybody wanted to stick their tongue out and do the jump man. Even though that I was 5'4" and white, I tried to do it. But like the style,
we learned white men can jump. Woody Harrelson taught us that. But,
this white boy can't, not anymore.
Well, I always wanted to do Michael's fadeaway jump shot more than the dunk.
The Kobe fadeaway. The Kobe fadeaway was kind of the Michael fadeaway because that's what Kobe practiced. He saw Jordan do it, and that's what he wanted to do. So he called it Jordan.
That's why Jordan said, "I'd hate to play Kobe one-on-one because he steals all my moves."
But it just feels like, and don't get me wrong, I'm an advocate for the 3-point shot. I'm glad that the 3-point line was eventually installed into the NBA, and I was born after it had been done. But it almost just kind of feels like, okay, dunk, three, dunk, three, dunk, three, foul here, foul there. And I love the NBA, and I want to be prosperous. I want it to be entertaining. But I do admit, and I confess, that I've kind of fell off of it, and maybe also for the little bit that the Atlanta Hawks traded Luka Doncic for Trae Young, but that's beside the point. But
no, I'm not
I don't
talking
think
about
you've
that.
seen that NBA. I mean, you look at the other games. I mean, Major League Baseball now, it's strikeout, home run. The idea of small ball has pretty much vanished. And also you see in college football, a lot of these offenses are now very simplified, and hit a slant, get a guy out of space and then let him go with it. I mean, with the hurry up offenses, the plays are not as complex, not so much in the NFL, but I think you see it on multiple levels where a lot of just the strategy of it has been simplified a lot, and they're just trying to go for the big moment each time. It's not unique to the NBA.
I agree with that. I want to comment on this. So there's a solution to this, everybody, as far as basketball goes. Now, I played international basketball in my life, and the difference between international basketball is it has a wider baseline and a 23-foot, 9-inch three-pointer, right? So what happens is in the last 6 minutes of the game, right, all the possessions become tight and nobody's taking threes. They're trying to get the best shot they can get possession, just like old school college basketball. And I think that's what's going to happen in the finals with these teams. Even though they both have effective 3-point shooters as a coach, you either have to be bold and believe, or you have to understand that the analytics change at the end of the game, and it becomes win per possession, right? And to win per possession, you can't shoot the three at a 30% clip.
I would
So
just ask. I would
And
just
the
ask
kind of
a
people.
question since uh, I would. You've may watched a little less of the NBA than in the past. Do you still watch college basketball? And if the answer is yes, I have a follow up to that.
Uh, yes, yeah, I
So
will say that I've watched some of the regular season, maybe not as much as I wanted to, but I think a lot of that had to do with
sure, but you watch
family
March Madness.
obligations, family obligations and side hustles probably had more to do with that than anything else.
But my point being is like my question would be like the difference I like to me between the NBA and college basketball, and a microcosm is like if you watch the St. John's game this year, like these guys can't make even a 15-foot jump shot, let alone a 3-point shot.
No, they can't.
Whereas, so to me, like just jump shooting in general, like at the college basketball level, is rapidly gone down compared to where it was. Bob will remember the '80s, and I can remember the '90s. Whereas at least in the NBA, when guys do take a mid-range, a non-three, they generally make that jump shot. Whereas lately, jump shooting in college basketball to me is, as a whole, obviously you can point out certain superstars that are great, but to me as a whole, the skill of a jump shot at the college game is bad.
And a lot of teams don't teach it. I mean, you look at Nate Oates at Alabama. He's been very vocal about this, and he's the math nerd. He likes to use analytics, and he basically says there's no point in taking a mid-range jump shot. The analytics aren't there. The three-pointer is worth it. Driving it to the basket is worth it to either get a layup or draw the foul. But the mid-range jump shot, he tells his players, he's like, don't take it because it's not worth it.
now, you gotta take it though, because it used to be like an automatic shot. Like if you were Isaiah Thomas or Larry Bird, you could do what was called a stop and pop, and that's where I'm forcing you towards the rim. And as soon as I get in the lane, I just start up and pitch it, and I've made it right. Now, if you can do that at an 80% clip per possession, then it becomes more effective. And so I disagree with some of the athletic.
Those two guys had high shooting percentages.
Oh yeah, but that's a
Not
common shot.
everybody does these days.
That's a common shot that people made though.
Jeremy actually brought up some very, very good points, and I had I'll kind of do it like a two part, folded into one here. So he brought up the athleticism and brought up also the analytics. Do you feel and as a baseball person myself, and I have my get off my lawn moments when it comes to analytics in baseball, which I mean, still to an extent that I still despise. But do you think that athleticism and even the analytics, as Jeremy mentioned earlier in reference to Nate Oates, that changing more of the game than anything? Is that more of changing basketball? Is athleticism and analytics taking away strategy? I guess is the question I'm asking.
Well, I mean, analytics is part of strategy. I mean, that is the strategy now. That's you look at the matchups, you look at the analytics, you look at the different scenarios, and it's basically a math equation. Ed Orgeron even said for the 2019 LSU team, a team that many people consider the greatest of all time, he said a big part of what they did and how they developed that offense, why it was so effective, was the analytics. So, I mean, it's just something that, some of us tend to not like that because we think it just kind of takes away from the strategy, but it's just the way things have evolved. It is the strategy now.
I can't speak to that football piece, but I do think there are kind of two strategies, and I'll use the SEC for basketball. I'm talking in college basketball is kind of two different styles. The Nate Oates style, which is to me I would prefer to watch a Nate Oates style game of movement, and you either get the layup or a dunk, or else you're taking a three because the numbers say take the three, not a mid-range, versus the style of basketball that Auburn and Tennessee play, which is very, very physical, they do tend to take some mid-range jump shots. Uh, you know, I like a cleaner, flowing kind of basketball game versus a more gritty, grindy kind of a physical basketball game. But those seem to be the two kind of styles right now permeating college basketball.
So
And
there's a
maybe
third style. And the third style would be you'd have to have talent beyond belief athletically. But the third style is 82 North Carolina and 97 Kentucky, where you got guys like Ron Mercer and Anderson, and then you got Jordan and Worthy. And so you can just fly and outrun everybody and go down the court and hit the dunk every time, right?
Yeah, or
But now, because
speed game. And we would add that Hank Gathers Loyola Marymount team on
Loyola
there
Marymount, some
had he not
UNLV
passed
team,
away.
But
Yeah.
guys aren't sticking around that long that you've got
to get that
a
good.
significant number of polished players on any team.
Yeah, I
But
mean it's
we're starting to
unfortunate.
see that again though with the players sticking around. This year there was like I think a little over 100 players that declared early for the NBA, which was the lowest amount in years. I mean, like a couple of years ago, it was 300 something that were declaring early for the NBA. Now it's down to just over 100. So with NIL and the transfer portal, we are seeing more guys sticking around. So I'm really going to be interested to see how that's going to affect sports like football and basketball, especially basketball, when we got so used to the one and done for so many years. And now you have players now they're sticking around for 2, 3, even 4 years.
And I would
develop and
add to
getting paid
that
for
the
it.
ability where a guy can declare, and then after he realizes, you know what, I might not get drafted, he can pull that back and
Yeah,
then come back.
your agent says, "Look, we got you slotted to be the 47th pick, but there's 300 grand on the table for next year to stay in college." Okay, I get it. I'll stay.
yeah, you
Because
get the
the glory years of college basketball were those late 70s through late 90s where guys were staying 3, 4, sometimes 5 years.
Oh
well
yeah,
the thing,
absolutely.
you guys familiar with the meme that has like the superhero cartoon character and there's two buttons that are like sitting there, and one of them says NIL and one of them says NBA one and done.
The
And
guy's
like
sweating, right?
Yep.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
guy is sweating. Like the ones which I have been critical about the one and done. I'm not a big fan of it, but I've understood it. But the ones that are like most vocal about NIL and transfer portal ruining college basketball or college sports in general are also the same ones that were tired of the NBA one and done. So now those people are staring at those buttons right now and wiping the sweat off their brow with a cloth, trying to figure out which one to pick right now. That's kind of the scenario they're in because, like Jeremy kind of laid out, like you can. I wouldn't say it rectified the one and done issue with college basketball in the NBA, but it has kind of slowed it down a little bit. NIL has because now you're able to
I
make
agree.
money
And
in college.
I didn't like one and done, but I do like NIL and transfer portal. I think it's particularly in basketball, it's diffusing talent more so. Um, and I think I think that's a good thing for the player. This, air quotes, student athlete. No pun intended. But
It's going to help the NBA too, Sean.
I
You know
mean,
why
I
it's going to help
think
the NBA?
I
Because
think because in the NBA, I only root for my one team, whereas I love the grandeur that is March Madness and even the week before the conference tournaments. And to make both of those products stronger, I think is a good thing. And I think this year's tournament gave you as much. Were there a lot of buzzer beaters? No, but I think all the games were really, pretty good and competitive. So anything that can make those two products better, I'm all for.
here's why it's going to make the NBA better. Because now you're going to have guys that can actually play basketball, and you're not limited strategically at that point to just shooting threes and dunking. Right now, that you forget guys that have had competition for 3 or 4 years and have even bounced around to different programs and learned different schemes, they're going to get in the NBA and they're going to be better players than a one and done guy. And
Yep.
and I believe
Well, the one thing I think would help the NBA is if John Morant would chill the hell out with the guns.
I mean,
and
the
actually be
perfect
on the court.
example of what you just said.
I thought you were a
Diamond
Hawks
Stone.
fan.
Well, I am, but I also like Ja Morant. I like watching him play.
He's very good. But yeah,
But
he
look
needs
at
to do it.
Diamond Stone. He was supposed to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he did nothing.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think there's the track record is proven that there's more failures from one and dones than success stories generally, other than unless you just consider, hey, I got a payday from being a lottery pick. Then
Because their
but
bodies aren't ready for the,
yeah,
Well,
it's
for the physicality and the length of the season.
for
well,
every
remember,
Kobe. Well, Kobe wasn't a one and done, but I mean, for every 18, 19-year-old that goes into the NBA, there's more failures than success stories.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
everybody knows Malone.
there was at one point, which was why the one and done rule was invented. If everybody remembers the LeBron James effect in the 2000s, where you had guys like Sebastian Telfair and all these like blue chip high school prospects who were going to the NBA draft, and a lot of them didn't really work out.
No.
Sebastian Telfair had a decent NBA career, but he didn't really live up to the hype of when he was on the Sports Illustrated cover back in the 2000s.
Man, a
Yeah, we
couple
have
years
here
of college
okay,
would have done him really good, I think.
And I think it would have done good for a lot of them, because it's going to be rare that you're going to have the LeBron James who has basically the body and the build at 18 years old to be able to go into the NBA. Sean Kemp was another one. Moses Malone was another one, if we really want to go way back. So
Barnett.
it's very rare in some cases, and sometimes people just get bad advice. Be like, yeah, you'll be able to go right, like Nelly said, right out of high school straight into the pros. And I think some people kind of took that a little too serious. But
Excuse me.
Of course, basketball's like fashion, guys. It's eventually going to come back around, and you're going to see some dude up there that looks like Dan Hensel, and he's going to throw up a hook shot, right? They're going to be a guy because it works, right? So somebody's going to say, "Damn, he can actually hit that." And some idiot is going to go out there and flip up that sky hook and make it 90% of the time, and everybody else is going to try it. So just like your shoes, your Ozzy Osbourne concert shirt from 1982, sooner or later it's going to come back in fashion, whatever it was in the NBA, as long as it makes some dollars. And when the dollars fall off, they start reassessing, right, what they need to do to drum up excitement. And I think Silver's trying to make moves, and he is a basketball fan, but I don't know that his moves have been extremely effective.
we need a Victor Wembanyama skyhook.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Ooh.
A Victor Wembanyama skyhook would be unstoppable.
He should make a phone call to Kareem and have Kareem fly out and show him all the pointers and fundamentals of the skyhook. That would be awesome.
Granted, the kick at his height and weight can move like a point guard, but imagine a skyhook with that.
Ooh,
It'd be
that
like
would be
George.
deadly.
It would be like George Mirison with talent.
I bought the guy's mind in
Hey, that's
Chicago.
my giant.
I was like 35 years old.
I'm sorry.
I was playing for like 35 years old and playing pickup basketball in Chicago on Monroe Street, right? And I was one of the only Caucasian for miles, probably. And I'm out there and I'm holding my own, and I'm a guard, so I drew which they didn't expect. So they had this little short guy on me, so I dragged him outside and cleared him out and backed him down. And then I threw a little hook shot up. They lost their minds. They go, I haven't seen one of them in 25 years.
Allow me to apologize to George Mirison. That was not fair for George Mirison, because he actually had some presence in the paint. Let's say it's Sean Bradley.
Sean Bradley, yeah, Sean Bradley.
There we go. Now,
Is Mirison still alive?
That's a good question.
Ed, you're our investigative reporter. You're gonna have to find that out.
Dan Itzel's alive though. He's the spokesman for Kentucky Farm Bureau.
Oh, okay. I learned something new today.
All right, so why don't we wrap up our finals discussion? We need picks from the round table.
For the NBA, you want the whole thing or the first game or what?
Who's going to win the NBA finals, Bob?
Oklahoma in 6.
Oklahoma City in 6. Jason, who you got?
I'm going to say Thunder in 5.
Thunder in 5. Jeremy, who you got?
I gotta agree with Jason. I'm gonna say Thunder in 5. Gentlemen sweep.
Gentlemen sweep. Ed.
I'm going Pacers in 7.
Pacers in 7.
Okay.
Doug, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Man, so Ed being the only person who picked the Pacers.
Whoa.
Wait, did somebody else pick the Pacers?
I took the Pacers, but I didn't give a game. So I'll agree with that. I'll say Pacers in 7.
Okay. I'm going with Sean, man. Whatever Sean goes with NBA, since I'm not paying attention.
No. Remember,
I'm going with the
I said earlier my pick is a homer pick because I didn't like that Oklahoma City stole the Supersonics. So mine is a spite pick.
Yeah, I'm still going Pacers.
Okay.
You know why? You know why? Because the Pacer is the most fucking awesome car ever fucking made, dude. That's why.
The Pacer.
If I recall, Doug,
I don't know. I have to go with the Corvette, but that's just me.
I mean, I'm talking about, for my side of it.
Doug, if I recall correctly, you don't really care for many things Oklahoma.
No, not really. I mean, I will say the what was the there was the Pacer. Oh, the Gremlin. The Gremlin was kind of like the square version of the Pacer, wasn't it? The squared off version.
Yeah.
And would the Geostorm be the Gremlin's bastard son?
Maybe the Metro.
Who remembers? How many people here remember the fucking the Maverick, the Ford Maverick?
Oh yeah. I've had a couple of them.
You could get a brand new Maverick back in the day. You could get a new Maverick probably cheaper than you could get most used cars.
Now, I bought a 71 Maverick. Well, it wasn't even a Maverick. It was a Mercury Comet. It was a Mercury's version of the Comet. So I bought a 71 Mercury Comet grabber with a 302 two-barrel and a 4-speed while I was in Abu Dhabi, Dad, for fucking $800.
Yeah, I had a buddy that had a Maverick.
I'll see you guys the Gremlin. I'll raise you the Yugo.
You know what always disappointed me? What disappointed me about the Yugo? They should have made a fucking van and called it the Wego, right?
Okay,
I like that.
Since we're on the topic of shitty cars, a quick story, and this just shows like what an ungrateful teenager I was, I guess, but. There was talks and discussions. So my grandma had a rusted 1978 Ford Pinto, like it was rust effing brown. And I remember riding in it as a kid. My grandmother loved that car. And when I was getting close to driving, I was probably around 14, 15 years old. And my grandma was like, "Yeah, me and your dad talked about you possibly giving you the Pinto when you're 16 years old." And in my mind, I'm going, "Fuck no," because it's one thing if you're getting thrown in the garbage can when you were in middle school. That was going to continue through high school if I had that car. Like I was, and also I think like part of the floor you could actually like see the asphalt as you were driving. He's like, well, you could fix it up, and I was like, well, that means I have to get a job and I can't play baseball anymore. That's just too much work for a 15, 16-year-old at that time because I was all about some baseball. But God bless that Ford Pinto. Probably in a scrapyard somewhere now. Who knows?
That's a great transition. You preferred baseball over a Pinto. And seeing as we don't want to get Ed talking about his first car, the Model T, we should talk about this college baseball that's going on, shouldn't we?
Hallelujah. How's the SEC doing, guys? How well are we doing?
I was watching the scores of those games, trying to keep it up the best I could. But I mean, you're watching this, and you're like, all year long, we were fed how good the league was. And look, you still get 4 teams in the Super Regional. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. but you get 13 teams in, and talk about how there could possibly get 8, 9, 10 into the super regional, and they're going to dominate. And then you have Vanderbilt losing the freaking Wright State or whoever it was, and Texas, they get beat at home by a little brother school from the same state.
Roadrunners, meet me.
And this is what makes these postseason formats so great. But unlike basketball, these regionals are set up to the advantage of the home team. Double elimination in the home field. The home team wins like 76% of the games in the regionals, but yet the SEC regular season champ and tournament champ, the two overall 1 and 2 seeds, were just unceremoniously dumped by these lower tier, lower league teams. I mean, it's another case. We saw this in football where the SEC gets hyped up to high heaven, and my team's the SEC, so I want to see them do well. Some of the teams do well, some can go screw themselves. Auburn, but you have this narrative that we get fed, and then the fans start to believe it. Then it doesn't happen, and then we have to hear overhype, and it's starting to become a cycle here.
Well, and it's interesting because, granted, in the last decade or so, SEC baseball has been the creme de la creme when it comes to college baseball, which was why and again, I'm not going to say like overhyped or anything like that, because it was almost like they were due for a season like this because of the way they've been dominating the postseason. Ole Miss has a national championship in baseball in recent time, which you're thinking hell's freezing over from that standpoint. So that tells you a lot about like the SEC and how deep that it is. But some of them picked the wrong time to channel the inner spirit of Texas A&M, the preseason number 1, who wound up not in the tournament.
Yeah.
Because, I was thinking too, I knew that I was thinking the SEC, they were probably going to get a lot in, and I was just going to kind of go with my sleeper. And it was going to be Coastal Carolina. But of course, me being from Alabama, no offense, Jeremy, and stupid with numbers, I was thinking 3 and 14, and I thought 3-seed Arkansas and Coastal Carolina, that might be an interesting series in Fayetteville. But then I was realizing it's 4 and 13, and they got to go to Auburn. Well, shit, there goes my Cinderella. I think if you look at the SEC, if you look at 2 SEC teams right now that I think that could still make a run the College World Series and still win it all, I think it's Auburn and Tennessee. I know Jeremy doesn't want to hear that. It's probably got his ears burning right now, but that's kind of where I'm at.
I would disagree on one of those teams.
Which one?
I would agree with you on Auburn. I think it's going to be very difficult for Coastal to beat Auburn down in Auburn. But I think Arkansas will beat Tennessee and Fayetteville.
Well, Tennessee has been up and down this year. They're not the team they were last year, especially with their pitching. So, Arky is going to be I think it's going to be a tough matchup for them. Auburn, I think they should take care of Coastal Carolina. I mean, I think they are probably out of the SEC teams that are left, probably the most legit to win the national championship. Will they? We don't know. But I mean, we've had so many years now. I don't even remember the last year the SEC did not win the SEC or the NCAA championship. But we have these these teams, and we have these coaches saying things like the Texas coach saying it's harder to win the SEC regular season than it is to win the NCAA tournament, and then he can't even get out of regional.
2018, to answer that trivia question for our listeners, was the last non-SEC NCAA baseball champion. And
Sounds
that
about right.
team is still alive hosting a super regional. That would be the Oregon State Beavers.
Who'd you beat Arkansas?
I'm like the Oregon State Beavers. They host the Florida State Seminoles in Corvallis this weekend, which should be an interesting series. Assuming Link Jarrett can stop yelling at umpires.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. You had the Florida coach that was like going in on officials and East Carolina players losing his mind, and then he's like, "Y'all better be ready to play." Well, coach, they were ready, and they put your ass out of the tournament.
Well, it started with the Florida coach. Then it went to the Florida State coach, and then the Wake Forest coach said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, the Wake Forest coach lashes this homophobic slur at a Tennessee player, and then the Tennessee player goes up the bat and says "screw you" and pretty much wins
Yeah.
the game for the
Great
Vols.
response by the
Yes.
Tennessee ball player. He says, "I'll just do my talking with my bat and put one deep into the bleachers for a home run." That was. I think the Tennessee Arkansas series will be the best. I think it goes 3 games. They probably go into extras, as we've known these two have battled before earlier this year. So that's my number one series to watch. The other one that I'm most excited for is Murray State at Duke.
Yeah.
The upstart Murray State Racers against Duke, who has been always the bridesmaid of late and never the bride. Duke has been to 3 straight super regionals and has yet to get to Omaha. So it's sort of the irresistible force against the immovable object in Durham this coming weekend.
Yeah,
And we know
yeah.
who Bob's rooting for.
Oh, the racers went all the way. Most State made it that far, and the guys. It's like it's a question of skill over talent, but I don't think Duke has exactly recruited the top 10 players in the nation either. But they seem to be well coached. I think it'll be very entertaining. There'll be a lot of energy. Who's gonna miss it?
I'm kind of afraid to actually pick a series that I'm the most excited about because the one that I picked last year, because Wake Forest had like the most productive offense in the nation last year, in which they put 20 something on Alabama in that super regional, which turned out they probably need to save some of that for Omaha because against Stanford and then against LSU, they just couldn't do anything because it was LSU's pitching against Wake Forest's bats. And that was the most excited I was to see. And Stanford kind of, just threw a turd in the punch bowl with that one at the beginning, and then LSU finished them off. So really, to tell you the truth, I'm interested to see how these super regionals play out, but I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to like pick one I'm the most excited about because I just feel like I'm going to be disappointed.
There you
Like
go.
it's not going to go the way that I expect.
Ed, what do you think? Did we lose Ed?
No, there was not a sanctioned bathroom break.
No,
That's all
No
right.
bathroom breaks, Ed.
But I'm picking LSU to win the whole thing.
Oh,
man, it's
Wow.
not a bad pick. That's not a bad
And
pick.
I don't like them.
I don't like
Hey, out of the SEC teams that are left, the only one that I can remotely tolerate, and the idea of them of not putting up a vomit reflex of them winning it all is Arkansas for me. So
Well,
and
I would disagree with that pick, Ed, simply because, man, were they put to the test by Little Rock? I mean,
That's why I made the pick, because they survived.
You think that's going to wake them up?
Yeah.
And Little Rock was under 500, which was wild.
powerhouse
They
lost
out of
their games
the
in the last
Ohio Valley
14 regular
Conference.
season games.
How psychotic was their non-conference schedule? That's what I want to know.
it's crazy.
And I think LSU, even though they're at home this weekend, I don't think West Virginia is just going to roll over to them. West Virginia had that was a fun regional that they survived. That game against Kentucky, sorry, Bob, but that was a hell of a game.
It was. That's why I didn't fall apart over it because, for one thing, I kind of semi-agree with you that Kentucky got in over other teams that probably should have got in, and that it was a great game. West Virginia played well; they deserved to win it. So,
and I said this last week as far as a team to kind of watch for. I think if there's any team that could possibly break the SEC streak that is left, don't sleep still. Don't sleep on North Carolina.
You read my mind.
They're playing some good baseball. I mean, the more I watched that, looked at that regional, I thought, well, with Oklahoma's pitching, some of the guys they have, maybe they give the Taris a little trouble. And that last game, North Carolina took them to the woodshed. I think the Heels will be a very dangerous team.
Yeah,
I think
that would be my selection as well for a team to break the SEC streak. Is I agree at North Carolina. The other one that I like that I think I'm second most excited for outside of Arkansas, Tennessee, is a pair of four-letter schools that are playing four-letter baseball, which is the word fine, very fine baseball that UTSA and UCLA have been playing, and they're going to do battle in Los Angeles. And
That's
I
true.
don't think it's getting a lot of hype, and I think that's going to be a great series.
Yeah,
UCLA is
that's
a tough team to read. They really are. They're really, really tough to read. Like they just the good moments and the bad moments, and now in the Big Ten play where it's almost kind of like Big Ten baseball. You just kind of get it's almost like the Siberia of college baseball in a way because you don't hear much talk about Big Ten baseball. Maybe it's because I live in the South, but you don't
Well, Big
hear
Ten
hear a
baseball,
lot about that, but still, it's just like UCLA just kind of still falls under the radar, even though it's been a pretty decent program in the last decade.
I think going forward, Big Ten baseball is going to be dominated by their new West Coast participants. You had Oregon make the tournament, UCLA made the tournament, USC made the tournament, and then the furthest east team I think that made it was Nebraska. So um, I think going forward, that's kind of what you're going to see. Even though, yeah, you're right, they absolutely kind of flew under the radar because for whatever reason, and maybe Ed can talk it. He's our Big Ten guy. Big Ten baseball just doesn't really get the love for whatever reason.
No, and it was not a real big year. I know both of my teams were down a little bit.
Maryland and Michigan, yeah, didn't have
Yeah.
great seasons.
No, and they're generally pretty competitive in the Big Ten.
Maryland, I definitely would think would be a competitive baseball program.
Well, Michigan hasn't been that good since their coach left or their manager, whatever you want to call them, a few years ago.
Yeah, the training has changed too. One of the South had a big edge in baseball, in my opinion, for many years because of the fact that you could basically train year round, especially in Florida. And then now with training facilities having been upgraded with a lot of indoor hitting facilities and so forth, they're basically a big team. Team can be good enough, and they can get the time in to. So I'm interested to see what happens with the expanded conference. But I'm in agreement with you. The West Coast has the same advantages in many cases as Florida and the Deep South has in terms of baseball, and they should exploit it. And I hope it becomes a moneymaker for them.
Well, the states with the most remaining teams in the tournament: North Carolina with 2, and Florida with 2. So I mean that's indicative. Yeah, I mean you want to if you're playing baseball, you kind of want to be in those warm weather states where you can practice and play year round.
So
Absolutely.
Hard to play a baseball game in Michigan, Ed, when there's 2 feet of snow on the diamond in
A
end of
little
February.
bit.
so Ed's already made his declaration for LSU to win
I'm
it
not
all.
happy about it.
So right now, which we're going to go back reassess this, and this is we'll probably change our minds after the super regionals are over.
Well,
But
before we pick our champion, should we pick our Elite
Super
8 that makes Omaha, at least from these regionals?
I agree.
okay,
100%.
yeah, we can do
So,
that.
all right, we'll round table this, and I'll go super regional by super regional. We'll start with Jason. Miami plays Louisville. Who you got?
I'm kind of leaning towards Louisville on that one because
It's in Louisville.
Louisville has kind of gotten hot in the last couple of weeks. Like I think I'll lean towards Louisville on that one. I like Miami, but I'll lean towards Louisville.
Bob, who you got?
Louisville.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I'll go with the Cardinals.
Ed.
Miami.
Doug.
I haven't picked anything correctly in a little while. I'm going with Auburn.
We're not there yet.
Where are we not at?
No, we're at Louisville against Miami.
Oh, fuck them both.
All right.
Fuck them both. Miami beat Alabama, so I'm going with Louisville.
And I'll take Miami with Ed. I like the Canes pitching in clutch positions. All right. Florida State is at Oregon State, Jason.
I feel like the ACC's kind of showed up in this tournament in a way. Like I kind of want to go Oregon State for the fact that it is in Corvallis, and that's a heck of a trip for the Seminoles. The Seminoles is not Florida State's not a bad team, but they really don't blow me away. So I think just on the base of the home field advantage, I think Oregon State will take it in 3.
I should add a fun fact. Oregon State baseball, due to decisions made by football, Oregon State this year has played as an independent and has played a hellacious schedule. Like they are taking on any and all comers. So I wanted to throw that out. Okay, Bob, Florida State, Oregon State.
Well, because of what you just said, and also the fact that if you're coming to Oregon to hit a baseball at Corvallis, the air is wet, chilly, and dead, and you're not going to be getting a lot of home runs. And I think that favors Oregon State, so I've got the Beavers.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I'll go with the consensus so far. I'll say Oregon State, but I'll agree with Jason and say it takes 3.
Ed.
I got to go with Oregon State.
And Doug hates Florida State for football, so he'll take Oregon State.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm taking the Beavers.
I was saying, and I will take the Beavers as well.
I like the Beavers too.
We have a unanimous. Okay.
Yep. The Arizona Wildcats visit Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and the Tar Heels.
Okay, this actually might be the one I would be the most excited about. Because Arizona, if you watched Arizona this season, that is a pretty damn good baseball team that they have. And the fact of going into the Big 12 and playing the kind of competition that they play, I'm sold on Arizona. But again, the ACC showing out and looking at North Carolina and just the absolute mollywhopping that they put on Oklahoma. And for the fact that it is in Chapel Hill. I won't rule out Arizona winning this series, but I think that North Carolina may be finding their stride. So I'm going to go with the Tar Heels.
Bob.
I got the Heels too. I'm going with the Heels.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I've got to go Heels for a lot of the reasons that Jason mentioned. They're just playing such good baseball. I think the Wildcats will sneak a game in there. I think they'll go to the full 3. But Tar Heels survive, and they make it to Omaha as a very dangerous team.
Ed.
Another team I hate, I'm going with North Carolina.
Doug.
UNC.
And we make it a full-on sweep. I like the Tar Heels as well. I like that 1-2 punch at the top of their order. All right. We now travel to beautiful, the prettiest little village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama. The Tigers host the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Jason, tell us your thoughts.
I'll give the opportunity for somebody else to give some analytics. As much as I would love to see Coastal Carolina get this one, I think the Tigers are too good.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
I think the same. I mean, I'm with Jason. I would love to see the Chanticleers just ruin Albie's day, because who doesn't love to see Albie's day ruined? But I've got to go with Auburn, probably taking it in 2.
Bob.
I'm gonna go with Coastal Carolina. I don't believe that the crowd is gonna and the situation is gonna phase them much. They're probably having the time of their lives, and they're gonna win. Coastal Carolina.
Bob's playing with house money. We love it. Ed.
Braver man to me.
Coastal.
Another Coastal.
Wow.
Doug.
If I could put $20 on Auburn and secure the Coastal win, I would fucking do it. Yeah, I'm going with Auburn.
Yeah, I just think Auburn in their building, the bright lights are brighter there. I think Coastal Great story. I'd love to see him win. Don't get me wrong. I think Auburn's just a little too much and gets it done. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm ready for the next one.
You kind of already gave your thoughts on that one.
Well, I was going to say there's probably not going to be much analytics to that, and I've been getting my analysis.
You're rooting for Coastal, but you think Auburn's going to win.
Yeah, and also too, I think 2 times already, Jeremy said I just got to go with Jason says, and I'm going to give somebody else an opportunity. So,
All right, we'll reverse the order on this next one. We're traveling to beautiful Los Angeles, California, where the Texas San Antonio Roadrunners will take on the UCLA Bruins. We'll start it off with Doug. Who you got?
I'm going with the Roadrunners.
I love what the Roadrunners did. I'm with you. I go with the upset. Give me the Roadrunners. It goes 3, and we'll go to Ed.
UCLA.
Big Ten man takes the Big Ten team.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
that wasn't really my reasoning, but
You see this so often, and I would love to see the Roadrunners continue their trend. But how many times have we seen a team get the big upset? They're riding high, and that next round they just crash and burn. And I think the Roadrunners will go to Los Angeles, but I think they'll give it a good effort. But I do think the story ends and the Bruins take it.
Bob.
Well, Nikki would root for Texas San Antonio, so I'm going to root for Texas San Antonio. But I kind of agree with Jeremy. But just because Nikki's not with us tonight, I'm going to pick UTSA.
There you go.
all right, now it's my turn to say this. Pretty much everything that Jeremy just said, I'm going to have to lean towards UCLA.
Okay, I think we're split on that one, gang. That moves us along to Durham, North Carolina, where the Murray State Racers take on the Duke Blue Devils. We'll start with Jeremy on this one.
Oh gosh, that one, Duke. Somebody mentioned before that they don't just have a ton of just blue chip talent that you see, but game being in Durham, screw it. Let's go with the Racers. I haven't really picked an upset yet. I'll do it here. Racers.
Taking the Racers. We like it. Ed.
I'm going with the more exciting basketball program, which is Murray State.
That's right. Popeye Jones, baby.
We'll go to Jason. Jason, who do you got? Murray State or Duke?
I'm kind of torn between one theory in an earlier game that we were picking about riding the high after coming off a big win. And Murray State, what they did to Ole Miss, you could be riding really, really high off of that, coming off a big win against a good SEC program like Ole Miss. But I almost kind of feel like this may have the opposite effect in this instance. Like, this is now where you now have the confidence. It's like, okay, we went out and not only went to Oxford, Mississippi, not only in the SEC country, but we beat their brains in. We knocked them out. We took them out. This is our house now. And now we're about to go to a basketball school. And I say that in loving endearment. We're about to go to this basketball school, and we're going to do the same thing and whoop their ass too. I think it may go 3 games, but I'm going to go with the Racers on this one, and they head to Omaha.
Doug, who you got?
Where's Murray State located at, guys?
Murray, Kentucky.
Western Kentucky.
Murray, Kentucky.
All right, give me the Racers.
And we'll go to Bob.
Yeah, I like the Racers, and they're hot bad, and they had decent pitching. And in Omaha's the basketball schools, they also had Popeye Jones and John Morant, right? So let's go Racers.
I'm going to be the lone contrarian. You can all hate me. Blue Devils roll the Racers. All right, moving along to the box in Baton Rouge, the LSU Fighting Tigers. The Bayou Bengals host those West Virginia Mountaineers. We'll start with Ed. This is your national champion, Ed, so you better pick him.
Yeah, I would.
I already said LSU.
All right, you got LSU. Doug, who you got?
I'm going for West Virginia to fuck up Ed's pick.
I love it, Jeremy.
The bigger question is who's going to consume the most alcohol, because you have two of the most inebriated fan bases in America meeting in Baton Rouge. So I think that's going to
Can
be
I
the
interrupt
story
you
to
for
watch
just one
there.
second? So this is incredible. We just had West Virginia play Kentucky in the Moonshine Bowl, and now we're going to play in the Not So Alcoholics Anonymous Bowl between West Virginia and LSU. Go
Well,
ahead,
I mean,
Jeremy.
you've got the fan base of the state where Bobby Boucher, the movie, was set, the Water Boy, and then you've got the fan base where most of the people are most like Bobby Boucher. So it's going to be really just pretty cool to see what's going on in the stands there. But I think LSU is going to take it.
We'll go to Bob. Who you got, West Virginia or LSU?
Well, I rarely root for LSU in anything, but in this case, I'm going to have to because West Virginia is right across the river from me, and I don't want to see the glow in the sky from the couches on fire and shit, right? So we're
Jason,
going with LSU.
Jason, go ahead. That's
All right.
good, Bob.
So to go back to what Ed said earlier about the scare that LSU experienced against a under 500 Little Rock team, I think that may have woke them up a little bit.
Yes.
Also, West Virginia, I think after that regional in Clemson, I think they may have wound up emptying the tank. Now I'm going to tell a little story of my senior trip back in 2000, and it's going to tie perfectly into all this. Yes, Jeremy, brace yourself. So we befriended some people that were from Houma, Louisiana, and well, actually, not me because I was smart, but some of my classmates decided to accept a challenge to a drinking contest against people from Louisiana.
Ooh.
Yes, it gets better. It gets better. So we had one of my classmates who was one of the offensive linemen, 300 pounds. I saw him drink 40 beers and damn near break the bed in our hotel room one time, and 5 people trying to pick him up after he passed out. But anyway,
Wait, 40 what?
40 beers in 40 beers within a 2-hour setting.
Jason, Wade Boggs is not impressed by that, by the way.
No, Wade Boggs is not impressed by that, but for an 18-year-old high schooler from Florence, Alabama, it was pretty damn impressive.
I will give him that.
Which I mean, maybe the bar was set low there. That's probably.
But did the Louisiana people win?
But anyways, so which he was like the ringer for Team Alabama or Team Shoals. Well, Mr. Homa picks up a fifth of Jack Daniels, unscrews the bottle cap, and no, he does not pour it into a glass. He downs that shit. And we watched as the brown liquid disappeared and disappeared and disappeared.
He went Bluto Blutarski on you. He went Animal House
here. Full disclosure. It sounds like there had to be some cocaine present.
I could not.
Get Bob started, Ed.
I cannot confirm that, but it was Panama City in the year 2000, so it's the possibility. So after this fifth of Jack Daniels is absolutely destroyed by Mr. Homa, he even goes up afterwards to high-five me and me as a spectator, because again, I was smart enough not to participate in this contest.
Smart man.
I looked at some of my classmates and went, "Y'all fucked," and that's West Virginia in this super regional. They're going to be the one watching the Cajun down the fifth of Jack Daniels and high-fiving them afterwards. I think they're going to wreck West Virginia.
And then I'll make my pick. I completely agree. I think the cobwebs have been shaken off LSU, and now I think they're ready to go on a tear. I'm not only going to pick LSU beat West Virginia. I think they sweep them 2 games real quick, tidy like, and get back to Omaha, whereby tying it back into Jason's story, which is alcohol, their fan base can try to break their own record of Jello shots, which is 68,688 at the 2023 College World Series.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
And doesn't we love to see Tiger fans in Omaha copiously drinking Jello shots? Of course we do. So most of us have taken LSU. We will move to the last and final, and as I've said, my most exciting super regional. I know not everyone agrees, but I am all in for this war in Fayetteville, Arkansas. The Tennessee Volunteers at the Arkansas Razorbacks. We'll start with Doug. Hogs
Well,
or Vols?
I've got to go Arkansas because I hate fucking Tennessee. And I
We
don't
got
know
you
shit.
down.
I don't know shit about either. I hear y'all talking about Tennessee being, not as good as they were last year. So, and I think I recall you saying that you thought Arkansas was going to win, Sean.
I was pissed that my Blue Jays got beat, but I accept the fact that Arkansas is a hell of a team. So, but I'll get to my pick shortly. Ed, who do you got? Tennessee or Arkansas?
I'm going to go with Arkansas because I think the Nico karma bites Tennessee in the ass.
We'll turn the floor over to Jeremy. Jeremy, who do you like in this one?
First off, let me say I love Ed's analytics. That is hard stuff that you will only get anywhere but here on the Smacking Off podcast. So that's that's cool
We
stuff
really put
there.
in the man hours, Jeremy.
Indeed. But I think, and I've even had some Tennessee fans admit this, and having a Tennessee fan admit where they're, might be in trouble about something is always a feat because they always think they're perfect. But they've even admitted that their pitching has been suspect at times this year. I think it's going to be suspect again in this game. Home field, suspect pitching for the Vols. I think the Razorbacks take it. I think that they may steal a game, but I think you're going to see the Razorbacks back in Omaha.
Well, I'll add that Nikki has turned me into a Vols hater. So,
Bob, who you got in this one? Tennessee or Arkansas?
Arkansas, go Louis Pig.
Jason.
Maybe I'm going to be the odd man out on this one because looking at the regionals that these two played in, and I know Tennessee, there may have been a little bit of humility in this regional, but looking at the regional with Miami, Ohio, with the exception of Wake Forest, Cincinnati, wasn't really that competitive. And no offense, Sean, but Creighton, Kansas, North Dakota State didn't really move the meter for me when it comes to Arkansas. So you're coming off some very, very soft regions within these two, and now you're going into SEC competition where you feel like, okay, now the switch is going to come back on. Now, I know with it being in Fayetteville, that's a good advantage for Arkansas. But I just, not to say that Arkansas is terrible, but I'm not really sold on them like just kind of being that upper echelon, which granted, this isn't the same Tennessee team as it was last year. But I think now, after a little humility in the regionals from Tennessee, I think the switch is going to turn on. I think they're going to punch Arkansas, or they'll punch Arkansas in the mouth in the first game and take that one. But Arkansas will wake up and take the second game. But in game number 3, it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out war, and I think the Tennessee Volunteers will come on top and return to Omaha to defend their national title.
Which leads me to me on this last one, and I could choose to be salty because Arkansas knocked my Creighton Blue Jays out of it, but I'm not going to be. I was impressed by everything Arkansas did. They handled business. I would agree it was kind of a soft regional with North Dakota State, Kansas, and Creighton, no doubt. But again, I love to pick via spite, as you all know, because I am a classic, air quotes, hater. And there's nothing better than seeing Peyton Manning and Tony Vitello with sad faces on their mugs. Give me the Hogs. Give me the Hogs all the way.
Hogs are going to Omaha.
Well, Sean. So Tennessee plays Michigan in a bowl game. Who are you rooting for?
I'm not gonna watch it, Ed. I'm not gonna watch it.
I thought he was going to say the Kremlin for a second, but I guess I was wrong.
if
Go
I
Meteor.
can get the Kremlin involved,
Yeah,
maybe
Meteor,
then,
yeah.
Jason. I don't want to watch Tennessee or Michigan.
Cop out.
Both are equally despised.
Now, Doug, I've got something for you here. You know, I've calculated how many shows we've done, and I think it's somewhere between 500 and 1,000. And my rough calculations are
That's the math right there, Bob. Between 500 and 1,000.
but my rough calculations is like 764, right? So we need to do a celebration show of our we'll call it our 500th episode, and then we'll talk about the 8 teams that are in the College World Series next week. What do you think?
Let's do it.
I agree. But real quick before we go, we picked our super regional winners. Ed, you're off the table because you already picked LSU. We're going to real quick round table. Who's winning the whole damn thing? Get it in now before we get to Omaha. We'll start with Doug. Doug, who's winning this whole damn thing?
Like I said, I ain't picking shit very good lately. I'm going with Auburn.
We got one Auburn Tigers. We got one LSU Tigers. We'll go to Bob. Bob, who you got winning the whole damn thing? The whole enchilada. Oregon State. We got an Oregon State. We'll go to Jeremy. Jeremy, who you got winning the whole thing?
Oh crap! You know, this is one of those things where it's probably going to overwhelm my good common sense, just because I hate the idea of probably the 3 most likely teams winning it actually winning it. But screw it, North Carolina.
We got 4 different picks so far. We'll go to Jason. 4 different picks so far from the panel.
All right. I'll get my pick here in a minute, but I was also going to offer, like, near the end before we sign off, I was going to give, like, my version of Jerry Springer's final thought because, you know, a couple of weeks I was sick, so I couldn't be on when this happened. And then the next week I was working the Tennessee State Baseball Championship, so I wasn't able to be on. But I just kind of want to give my final thought out there.
Please,
but
go ahead.
No, and and I'll do that. I'll do that after we get through the picks. But I'm kind of in limbo. Jeremy, close your ears. I'm in between limbo, between LSU and between Auburn. Because right now I think Auburn has been solid. As much as I hate it, I think they're going to run through Coastal Carolina. But also, as I mentioned earlier, LSU maybe finally starting to hit their stride in the wake-up call. So I can't, I can't politic this. I can't tap dance this. So you got to make a decision right now. Since Auburn has already been, Ed has already picked LSU, and Auburn has also been picked too. I'm going to put in a second vote for the Auburn Tigers.
Okay. That's 2 for Auburn, 1 for North Carolina, 1 for Oregon State, 1 for LSU. And then, again, proving there's no salt in the wound, give me the Arkansas Razorbacks to finally break through and win the whole damn thing. And with that, we'll do quick alibis. Anybody have an alibi? Anything they need to get off their chest? We'll go to Jason for his final thoughts.
All right. So I'm guessing that most of you remembered the whole dust up in a WNBA game. Yes, I'm about to bring up the WNBA. Please forgive me. But when Caitlin Clark did the hard foul on Angel, which of course we know the backstory going all the way back to their days of college at LSU and in Iowa, where it was just basically 2 competitive athletes in the heat of moment just talking shit, and that's how I had perceived it. And of course, when the hard foul happened, everybody wanted to bring. But here's the thing about it. This is my public service announcement to everyone. If you don't care about the WNBA, It's okay. Just don't be a dick about it. Like for me, I could sit here and pretend to try to sell you how great the WNBA is. And maybe as a media person, I could go and sell how great it is. Listen, the WNBA, it's increased in popularity. Is it that much? Probably not. Is it to the point of the NBA? Absolutely not. But my problem is when you have some of these political grifters who probably, like I could probably say this. I've probably watched more WNBA games than Charlie Kirk, and I can count the number of times on one hand. But when you want to use the WNBA to try to manufacture your rage bait over two athletes who are competitive and talking shit, I have a big problem with that. And I feel like you're trying to shove the WNBA down my throat, in which ESPN gets accused of. That's the big problem with me because I could sit. Well, because I remember seeing somebody talking about when Caitlin Clark got injured that, oh, these idiots in the WNBA hate Caitlin Clark so much, though they're about to learn that now she's out and the ratings are going to be bad. No, the WNBA is going to be fine. You know why? Because it's subsidized by who? The WNBA. And if you actually did some fucking research and found that out, you wouldn't make such a stupid asinine comment. So, but to go here, my point being is you can say that you don't care about the WNBA and for that matter, women's college basketball. But when it just comes on the TV, don't be the dick and say, I don't watch women's college basketball because it's women playing. That's what gets you in trouble. That's what gets you in trouble. Or it's mid competition. Because I have no problem with women competing in sports. As a matter of fact, I want girls to compete in more sports. Now, granted, does it have any entertainment value to me? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Although the Angel Reese TikTok memes are freaking hilarious. I will give them that. But
now, my daughter played at Clemson at volleyball and basketball. And be honest with you, at 40 years old, I felt like I could smoke everybody around her.
Well, and the thing is too, there are probably those who are watching that probably have daughters that play in competitive sports. So yes, you're going to have a little bit of a vested interest in it because, well, it's your daughter, it's your niece, it's your relative. You're going to go out and support them, and that is okay. I don't have a daughter. I had nieces that played softball, and when I came into town, I would watch them. I would support them. But outside of that, there's no entertainment value to me, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do. But I'm also not going to be a dick about it and say and just stand on my morals chest high and going, I don't watch women's basketball. Look at me. You're the dick, okay?
I'd agree with that.
I think that's fair. I don't have enough hours in the day to watch all the sports. However, I did spend most of Sunday watching a thrilling U.S. Women's Open. I love women's golf. I watch it pretty regularly along with men's golf, and so I think don't be a dick and let athletes compete in their given sport. If you don't watch it, that's okay, but you don't have to ruin it for other people.
Yeah,
And let
exactly.
me add to that real quick. You know, we see so much of this in so many different sports where people are just saying those asinine, dumb things over and over. It's like the gift of intelligence has been removed from the athletic world in so many ways. I mentioned the Texas coach that's made the stupid statement about the SEC winning the SEC regular season is more difficult than winning the NCAA championship, and then his team gets put out in the NCAA regional. Angel Reese saying her crap about how they should be paid as much as NBA players, where she does not understand a basic free market system. Even this week, and I got blasted by some Alabama fans for this in various groups. Ryan Williams made the statement about, we're going to be a sledgehammer and hit a mosquito, or whatever it is, talking about playing against Vanderbilt. Man, just shut up and go on the field and do it. I'm so sick of people just running their mouths about the stupidest stuff, just saying, look at me, look at what I can say. And then a lot of the times they can't even back it up. And then they don't want to be called out for it. They want to say, leave me alone. They don't want to be held accountable for what they said. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you disagree, that's fine. But I think it's a serious issue in sports where, we've become so focused on the smack talking. Yeah, a lot of it's entertaining, of course. But, and these guys that are trying to put this political spin on the WNBA, what's happening, like Jason mentioned, most of what is said is just idiotic. Just just shut your mouth and perform, and that'll take care of a lot of problems.
Let me throw
Now,
a counter.
someone read in the Columbia newspaper recently, this is from Columbia, South Carolina, was that South Carolina women's basketball lost $6 million this season.
And to kind of counter what Jeremy said about the WNBA players looking for equal pay, flip that around, and I think that it kind of like the reverse version of this. You look at one point where U.S. women's soccer was gained in popularity. They won World Cups. Like they had Hope Solo, Abby Wambach out in the spotlight. Like more people knew about them than they would somebody like Landon Donovan on the U.S. soccer team. And then I watched the Hope Solo documentary on Netflix where it was almost like kind of she was banished after she made the whole argument for equal pay with U.S. soccer. Which, even though like you talk about the free market system, you look at the ratings, you look at the revenue that U.S. women's soccer did bring in compared to the men, to where sometimes they couldn't even qualify for the World Cup, and if they did, they get put out in pool play and be lucky to get to the knockout round. So
if we're doing performance based, U.S. women's soccer has vastly exceeded the performance of U.S. men's soccer historically.
And with that though, that spreads more than just to the U.S. teams when you're talking about the World Cup and stuff. Yes, the U.S. women's soccer team is more popular, but when you compare the revenue generated by the women's World Cup compared to the men's overall, I mean, it's not even close. So you have to look at that aspect as far as the bigger part, where it's the game itself compared to just the individual teams in that league or that competition, for lack of a better term. But I think that when you're just comparing the women's to the men's, you've got an excellent point. But you have to look at a larger scale.
Productivity more.
Well, you're absolutely right about the finances. But for how many years did the U.S. men's team not even qualify for the World Cup to be eligible for that financial aspect of it? It's a tough subject, but to me, it's whatever sport you like, whether it's men's or women's, just to Jason's point, watch it, enjoy it. Maybe to Jeremy's point, less hyperbole, and just walk the walk before you talk the talk, so to speak.
And probably the nicest way that I could put it, just to put a bow on this, is that if you are commenting on a sport that you do not even watch and you want to, for the purpose of manufacturing rage bait, fuck you.
Well, I'm not trying to create rage bait, but I don't really talk about hockey because I don't know about it and I don't really watch it.
No, not you. I'm just talking about, the people.
You're talking to somebody, Jason. We know you are.
Yeah. Fuck you, cat turd.
All right, whoever. Yeah. Fuck you.
So real quick before we go, because we don't know anything about hockey, who you got? The Edmonton Oilers or the Florida Panthers? Real quick, Doug.
Man, I got to go with Florida because that's a hockey hotbed down there.
The hockey mecca, right? Florida.
Yes.
Jeremy.
I got to go with the Panthers. I mean, they've just been playing so well in this postseason. I do think it'll be a series that maybe goes to 6, maybe even 7 if the Oilers get good goalie play. But man, I mean, Florida's just playing so well right now.
Bob, who you got?
Well, from what I understand, Canada hasn't won a cup.
1993 was the last time.
Yeah, that's been a long time. So I think lightning's going to strike for Canada. So go Oilers.
Jason?
As much as I would love to see the Stanley Cup go back to its motherland for the first time in 32 years, If it was any other team from the Eastern Conference playing the Edmonton Oilers, I would feel confident because the Oilers, outside of Connor McDavid, Victor Arvidsson, a former Nashville Predator, is now on that team. He was on the Western Conference champion team for Nashville. So there is Stanley Cup experience on the side of the Edmonton Oilers. But Florida's just playing way too good. I think Edmonton will get 2. I think they'll get 2 in this series, but that's going to be it. I'm going to say Panthers in 6.
Ed.
Florida's the better team. I'm taking the Oilers.
Of course you are. I'm going to echo most of the gallery. I just think Florida, man, that's a down and dirty team that I wouldn't want to see right now. Give me the Panthers, and I'll say 6. Any final parting thoughts before we let Doug get out of here?
Oh yeah, I've got one. Make sure you subscribe and like all the different groups, sites, all of the content, anything having to do with Jason, Jeremy, myself, back on the podcast, Lozzie Dozzie, and next week we'll celebrate thousands of episodes of Smacking Off the Podcast.
Yeah, and if you don't do what Bob said, you're a dirty bitch.
I echo those sentiments. Subscribe, like, follow all of our contributors. We thank all of our contributors for being on. And we apologize to our viewers who really wanted another hour and a half of college football playoff talk. We will get back to that next week on Smacking Off the Podcast. We love you all. Have a good evening.
Later, guys.
All righty.
Smacking off the podcast. Fuck your city, dog boss. Because sports authorities.
Thank you for supporting Smacking Off the Podcast. Make sure to stream in every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for an all-new live cast.